Hello everyone. It's Ian from Cromford Collector's Corner. I'm here today to go through some things that might be interesting that are to do with differences on the covers of comics that may make a difference to the value of your comic. So I'm going to talk a little bit about pence price and cents price, newsstand and direct editions, and later comics where you get first and second printings. And I'll show you some examples. But so you know, obviously I'm talking about American comics here, which by definition I mean comics that are printed in America. And so obviously the golden age of American comics is the sort of late 30s to the sort of 50s, and generally those are all cents price copies. When we move into the 60s, you start to get what they call pence price variants. They're now called pence price variants, but they're basically comics that have a UK price for sale in the UK market. Then later on still, you start to get the development of barcodes, and you get newsstand and direct editions, and then later still, you get first prints, variant covers, all that sort of stuff. So we're going to look at a couple of examples of comics that have cents price comics from the 60s that have, one has what they call a UK price stamp. And this can very marginally affect the value of the comic. Personally, I don't really see it. I see it as a kind of part of the history of the comic if it has a UK price stamp. But it may affect, on very high-end items, it would affect the value. So what we're going to look at here are two beautiful adventure comics from 1963. So these are absolute blinders. We have this one, which is Adventure Comics 310, and that's from 1963. And we have Adventure Comics 307, also from 1963. So this one has no UK price stamp, whereas this one has a UK price stamp. So you can see here, I'm going to show you, that is a 12 cents copy with a 9D UK price stamp, whereas this one is just a 12 cents copy with no UK price stamp. So this one, I suspect, was bought in America by a tourist and brought to this country, whereas this one has come through customs and has been repriced with a 9D 9 old pence price mark. So that does make a difference. I don't know if this is the case, but certainly I do seem to see, when I see comics from the Silver Age from the 60s, I notice Marvel seem to have more pence price variants than DC. So DC at this time, I'm not sure whether Marvel were doing it more, but certainly I come across more UK price stamped cents price DC copies than I do Marvel. But I'm not sure if that's just to do with how I acquire things. So when I'm talking about pence and cents price copies, it can make a difference in the valuation of your comic. So generally, for most dealers, I think might be right in saying it's sort of between 10 and 15%. So to be clear, these comics are printed in the same place at the same time. At the end of the print run, the publishers would swap out cents price and put a pence price block in and print a lower amount of those. So ironically, there are less pence price copies around globally, but cents price copies generally are a little bit more sought after. And I'm guessing the reason for that is that if you wanted to have an entire run of a comic from number one all the way through, and you wanted them all the same, it would really only be possible if they were cents priced, because pence price copies aren't as common, and it wasn't every issue there was a pence price, just some were, particularly early on. So I'll show you some comics now from the Bronze Age of American comics that are both UK and American pricing. So we've got here a 1980 copy of Captain America 247, and that is a pence priced comic, 15p there, and we'll talk about it in a sec, but that's a direct edition. And this one is a 1981 Dazzler number 2, which is a cents priced copy. So, as I say, that does make a slight difference in the valuation of the comic. Generally, as I say, it takes about 10 to 15% more for a cents price copy. So, we mentioned newsstand and direct editions here. So, that one, if it has Spider-Man's head, is a direct edition. Earlier on, before they developed that, you would get the barcode, but it would have a line through it. And this one is a newsstand edition because it's got a barcode. Now, what is a newsstand and a direct edition? Good question. A newsstand edition was a comic that was sold on the newsstand but was available for sale or return. A direct edition was a comic that was shipped directly to the comic shop and was not available for returns. This becomes more and more common over time, meaning that newsstand copies with the barcode are a little bit scarcer and a little bit more sought after than direct editions. Again, it does make a slight difference in terms of the value of your comic. So that's worth knowing. Spider-Man's head, Captain America's shield, basically where the barcode has been removed is a direct edition, and where there is a barcode, that will be the one that's a little bit more sought after. Here's another example. This is a Daredevil 154 from 1978, Pence priced newsstand. I will mention briefly that the comics I'm talking about here are printed in America, and they are in this US comic format. Most people will know this, I'm sure, and the vast majority of the information I'm talking about here I am probably preaching to the converted, but it's worth knowing that Marvel UK was a thing, and these are comics that are printed in Britain for the British market that reprint Marvel Comics material. So do not be confused by this. So Marvel UK's generally are in this British format, so this kind of Beano size A4 style comic. And where a pence price or a direct edition or a newsstand will make a small difference to the value of your comic. The difference between the Marvel UK printing and a original US printing is enormous. This comic is a 1973 Spider-Man Comics Weekly number 27, and it's probably worth £5, even in really nice condition like that. Whereas the original comic, in which this Spider-Man story occurs, is probably worth, I don't know, £50, £100. I'd have to check, but that's the first time Spider-Man reveals he has super strength. So in a high grade, that's a valuable comic. And even in near mint condition, this comic is like £10 at most. So there's a big difference between Marvel UK and American comics, Marvel US comics. They're quite obvious to tell the difference there. The last thing I'm going to talk about is in the modern era of comics, obviously you get variant covers, you get first printings, second printings, you get all this kind of thing. So it's worth knowing that the information on that is on the barcode. And I'll show you just very briefly. So on a modern comic, there's 5 digits at the end. And the 5 digits do tell us something. So I think the third one along will tell you if it's a variant cover. It'll say 2 or 3. But it's the last number that's really the most important, because that is the indication of which printing it is. Generally, as a rule, first prints are more collectible. Although second prints can be collectible too. I think X-Force number 1 had that like gold cover. That's a little bit more sought after, I think, than the first. Anyway, so the barcode on there, the number 1 at the very end will say it's a first printing. If it's a number 2, it'll say it's a second printing, etc., etc. So that also will make a slight difference to the value of the comic. I'm going to leave it there, guys. If there's anything I can do for you, please do feel free to drop me a line. You can find me on Instagram. I'm Secondhand Geekery on Instagram, or I'm Dalek Zen, who is currently managing my Facebook business. You'll need to send him a friend request if that pleases you. Or leave a comment on here, or Google Cromford Comic Shop if you want to find me. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate your time and interest. You all have a nice day, okay? See you later. Bye.